You know, there's something they don't tell you about getting older. It can actually be one of the most freeing, empowering times of your life, especially if you're living alone. Now, I know what some people might think. Living by myself at this age, won't that be lonely? Won't I feel isolated? But what if I told you that living alone after 70 could be the best decision you ever make? That instead of feeling like something's missing, you might discover a whole new level of happiness, confidence, and even adventure? It's true. And today, I want to share with you 4 surprising benefits of solo living after 70. Things you may not have considered, but could completely change the way you see this chapter of your life. Now, maybe you've recently lost a spouse, or your kids have moved away, or maybe you've just decided it's time to enjoy your own space. Whatever brought you here, I want you to know, this isn't about missing out on anything. It's about stepping into a life that's entirely yours. Today, we're going to explore 4 surprising benefits of living alone after 70. Benefits that go far beyond just having control over the TV remote, though that's certainly nice too. These are transformative advantages that can fundamentally change how you experience this stage of life. The first benefit we're going to talk about is rediscovering your own rhythm. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something simply because it made you happy? Not because it was expected of you, not because it pleased someone else, but purely because it brought you joy. One of the most profound gifts of living alone is the complete freedom to structure your days according to your natural rhythms and preferences. No more compromising on meal times if you're not hungry when everyone else is. No more watching television shows you don't enjoy just because someone else prefers them. No more suppressing your spontaneous desires to accommodate someone else's routine. Take mornings, for example. Maybe you've always been a night owl, but for years you woke up early because your spouse was an early riser. Now, you can sleep until 7 or 8 or 9. The choice is entirely yours. One woman I spoke to, Helen, shared how after her husband passed, she realized she could finally listen to her beloved Motown music as loud as she wanted, whenever she wanted. For 50 years, she said with a twinkle in her eye, our house was filled with classical music because that's what George loved. Now, I've got Diana Ross on repeat from breakfast to bedtime. This freedom extends to every aspect of daily life. Feel like having breakfast for dinner? Why not? Want to spend an entire afternoon reading without interruption? Go ahead. Interested in taking up a new hobby that no one else in your life understands? This is your moment. The psychological impact of this autonomy is profound. Dr. Sarah Lewis, a gerontologist I recently interviewed, explained that when seniors embrace this kind of self-directed living, they often experience improved mood and decreased stress, greater sense of personal identity, increased creativity and curiosity, renewed energy and enthusiasm for life. It's not just about what you're doing. It's about reclaiming the right to decide for yourself. And that, my friends, is a powerful form of self-care that only solo living can provide. Now let's move on to the second benefit, stronger, more meaningful connections. Now this benefit might surprise you. At first glance, you might assume that living alone would lead to more isolation. But in reality, many people find their relationships actually deepen and become more fulfilling when they're living solo. Here's why. When you're not constantly tending to someone else's needs in your home, you have more emotional energy to invest in the relationships that truly matter to you. Think about it. How many times in the past did you put off calling a friend because you were busy with household responsibilities? How often did you skip social events because your partner wasn't interested in going? Living alone removes those barriers. You're free to nurture exactly the kinds of connections you want, in exactly the ways that feel right to you. Let me share Robert's story. After his wife passed, Robert found himself reluctant to go out much at first. but then he started attending a weekly coffee group at his local senior center. At first, I just went for something to do, he told me. But then I realized I was actually forming real friendships, the kind where we talk about everything from sports to philosophy to our fears about aging. I don't know that I would have made the effort if I wasn't living alone now. This phenomenon is backed by research. A study from the University of California found that seniors living alone were 27% more likely to maintain regular social activities, more proactive about reaching out to family and friends, more likely to form new friendships later in life. The key is intentionality. When you live alone, your social life isn't on autopilot. You get to consciously choose who you spend time with and how. Maybe it's finally joining that book club you've been curious about. Maybe it's scheduling regular video calls with grandchildren across the country. Maybe it's even making new friends through community classes or volunteer work. And here's something beautiful. These relationships tend to be more authentic because they're based on mutual interest rather than convenience or obligation. When you reach out to someone or accept an invitation, it's because you genuinely want to, not because you feel you should. You know, there comes a moment, and maybe you've experienced this yourself, when living alone stops feeling like something you're doing by circumstance and starts feeling like something you're choosing with intention. It's that shift from I have to live alone to I get to live alone. And that's when the real magic begins. Let me tell you about my neighbor, Lena. After her husband passed, she spent the first year just going through the motions. Then one morning she woke up with this startling realization. For the first time in 62 years, nobody else's opinion matters in my daily life. Now, that might sound lonely to some people, but Lena, she found it exhilarating. That brings us to our next two benefits of solo living after 70, benefits that go straight to the heart of what it means to truly thrive in this chapter of life. The third benefit we're going to talk about is the unexpected confidence boost. Here's something fascinating I've noticed. There's a particular kind of confidence that only comes from standing on your own 2 feet, literally and figuratively. And living alone after 70 gives you daily opportunities to build that confidence muscle. Think about all the little victories. That time you figured out how to reset the Wi-Fi router without calling your grandkids. When you navigated public transportation to get to your doctor's appointment. The day you finally mastered online grocery ordering and got exactly what you wanted. Each of these moments might seem small, but collectively, they're transformative. Dr. Evelyn Chen, a psychologist specializing in aging, explains that this is what researchers call self-efficacy, the belief in your own ability to handle life's challenges. And here's the exciting part. Every time you successfully handle something on your own, that belief grows stronger. Let me share a story about my friend Carl. At 78, he'd always relied on his wife to handle their finances. After she passed, he was terrified, until he decided to take a senior finance basics class at his local community center. Fast forward 6 months, and not only was he managing his own accounts, he'd become the go-to guy in his building for helping neighbors understand their Medicare benefits. Carl's transformation illustrates something profound. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build through action. And living alone provides the perfect environment for that construction project. Here are 3 simple ways to cultivate this confidence every day. 1. Embrace the I'll figure it out mindset. Next time you're faced with something unfamiliar, instead of immediately seeking help, give yourself permission to try first. Celebrate small wins. Fix the squeaky cabinet door? That's a victory worth acknowledging. 3. Challenge yourself gently. Maybe it's trying a new recipe or taking a different route to the store. Small challenges lead to big confidence. Now we come to the fourth benefit, the freedom to reinvent yourself. This might just be the most exciting benefit of all. Living alone after 70 gives you the unprecedented freedom to rediscover or completely reinvent who you are. Think about it. How many roles have you played in your life? Parent, spouse, employee, caregiver. But when you're living solo, you get to ask the most liberating question of all. Who do I want to be now? This isn't about rejecting your past. It's about embracing possibilities you might not have previously considered. Maybe you've always wanted to join a hiking group, but didn't have a partner interested. Spend hours reading without interruption, or even just wear mismatched socks if you feel like it. The point is, the rules are yours to make now. Let me tell you about Sophia, who at 72 decided to completely redecorate her apartment in bold colors her husband would have hated. For 45 years, our home was all neutrals, she laughed. Now, fuchsia pillows, turquoise curtains, it looks like a rainbow exploded in here and I love it. Or consider James, who discovered a passion for birdwatching after retiring. I must have walked past birds my whole life without noticing, he told me. Now I keep binoculars by every window and have a life list of over 100 species. This is the gift of solo living, the space and freedom to explore parts of yourself that may have been dormant for decades. And here's the beautiful part. Neuroscience shows it's never too late for this kind of self-discovery. Studies using brain imaging technology reveal that our brains remain capable of forming new interests and passions well into our 80s and beyond. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, this all sounds wonderful, but what about the practical challenges? What about safety concerns or those days when the solitude feels overwhelming? You're absolutely right to consider these things. And in our final segment, we'll tackle these questions head-on with practical solutions, heartwarming wisdom from people who've been there. Let me share something personal with you. When I first started researching this topic, I spoke with dozens of seniors living alone, and nearly all of them said some version of the same thing. It's not always easy, but it's absolutely worth it. That honest perspective is what I want to bring you today. Not just the sunshine, but also the tools to weather the occasional rain. Because here's the truth, they don't always tell you. The challenges of living alone aren't weaknesses in the experience. They're actually opportunities for growth. Every difficulty you navigate successfully makes you stronger, wiser, and more resilient. And that's exactly what we're going to explore now. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room, loneliness. It's important to recognize that feeling lonely sometimes doesn't mean you're failing at solo living. It means you're human. Our brains are wired for connection, and that doesn't magically disappear at 70. But here's the hopeful part. Modern research shows loneliness has more to do with the quality of our connections than the quantity. You could be surrounded by people and feel lonely, or live alone and feel deeply connected. The difference? Intentionality. Take my friend Eleanor's approach. She created what she calls her connection pyramid. 1. Daily micro-connections. Brief but meaningful interactions with neighbors, cashiers, or fellow dog walkers. 2. Weekly heart-to-hearts. Longer calls or visits with close friends or family. 3. Monthly adventures, outings with her book club or museum group. 4. Quarterly reunions, special gatherings with faraway loved ones. This structure ensures she gets different types of connection without feeling overwhelmed. Some days I just want a 5-minute chat with my mail carrier, she says. Other days I need a 3-hour lunch with my sister. Now I know how to get both. Technology can be a powerful ally too. Consider video calls with grandchildren, where you teach them something, a family recipe, childhood stories. Online classes or discussion groups about your interests, even simple text check-ins with friends throughout the day. The key is recognizing that loneliness is a signal, not a sentence. It's your heart's way of saying, I'm ready for meaningful connection. Not, I can't do this alone. Now, let's talk about safety. Safety is often the biggest concern about living alone. But here's the wonderful truth. Today's solutions let you stay independent while feeling completely secure. I've seen how simple technologies can make all the difference. Voice assistants that call for help if you need it. Automatic pill reminders so you never miss medication. Motion sensor lights that guide you safely at night. These aren't just gadgets, they're peace of mind. But what really warms my heart? The human connections. In my neighborhood, we have this lovely unspoken rule. We check in on each other. Just a wave across the yard or a quick call to say all good today. Our local senior center offers fantastic classes too. Remember Miriam? At 84, she took a home maintenance course and now proudly diagnoses every creak and rattle in her house. The secret is blending safety with comfort. Maybe it's your morning coffee in that sunny kitchen nook, or evening music that says time to relax. These little rituals make your house a true home. And here's what's really beautiful. This time in your life isn't about limitations. It's about possibilities. All those years of caring for others were planting seeds. Now, it's harvest season. Maybe that means finally trying watercolor painting like you've always wanted. Enjoying the luxury of an afternoon with a good book, mentoring younger folks who'd benefit from your wisdom. As the poet Mary Oliver asked, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? That question gets richer with time. The story isn't over. In many ways, the most exciting chapters are just beginning. So here's my challenge to you. This week, try one small thing that celebrates your solo journey. Maybe it's rearranging a room exactly how you want it. Maybe it's reaching out to someone you've been meaning to connect with. Or maybe it's simply sitting quietly and recognizing, this moment is entirely mine. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you discovered any unexpected joys of living alone? Or maybe you've found a great way to handle the tougher moments. Share your stories in the comments below. Let's learn from each other. And if this video resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more conversations like this. Because no matter where you are in your journey, remember what the remarkable 85-year-old artist Grandma Moses said. Life is what we make it. Always has been, always will be. Here's to making yours extraordinary.